When I heard that The Last of Us was getting a TV series, I was a bit skeptical, you could say. I mean, we're still hearing instances of video game movies and TV series that are coming out that are still constantly flopping back and forth just because writers are taking their own spin or just not adapting it here correctly. And so when The Last of Us was announced, I wasn't going to get too excited about it because I didn't want to bring my hopes up just to have them get shattered down a little bit. And I was going to wait till the series had released. Now, at the time of recording this video, 2 episodes have come out, and here are kind of my thoughts here so far on how the series is going. And let me just say, I am fully invested into the story and everything like that. So far, The Last of Us has started off on a great note. Now, I know that there's like 10 episodes that are going to release, and anything can still happen. Even if it's in the beginning and it's going off great, things can always change in the end. But as the show currently stands here right now with 2 episodes in, I'm just going to kind of talk about the direction things have been going and kind of how I feel about everything. And so what better than to start with episode 1 and kind of how it all started. In episode 1, you get to, kind of start with Joel and Sarah, which is exactly how they start in the game. But in the game, it happens, fairly quick. I feel like they can do that in a video game just because things roll along and you don't want to have too much dialogue in the beginning or else people aren't going to be too interested and might tap out early. The show is a bit different. They provide you a lot of backstory and things to build on some of the characters and in their neighborhood. That way you can really feel a sense of attachment before the outbreak starts happening. And honestly, the bits and pieces that they gave us in this little addition worked out perfectly. They added a little bit of elements to the story to get people that maybe haven't seen the video game or that are brand new to the series, anything like that, all kind of caught up to speed and get a good feeling for the environment, while at the same time ending in the exact same place. But the way things kind of matched up in the video game and in the TV series is, in some cases, scene for scene and frame for frame. They did a fantastic job with adding their extra bits, but also keeping exactly what they needed to roll forward and end with the big dramatic scene where, if you don't know, we'll be talking about a little bit of spoilers, so if you don't want anything to be spoiled, this is your warning now, because we're going to jump right into it. I mean, this happens right in the first 15 minutes of the game, first 30 minutes of the TV series, but you're met with Joel and Sarah, and to really set the scene heavy, Sarah unfortunately doesn't make it in the initial breakout, and which is kind of hard to do, honestly. And in the game and in the TV series, it's really hard to master. You're supposed to feel a real big sense of attachment to the character Sarah, just to have her get killed right away. And to be able to make you feel a good attachment to these characters right away in the beginning of the game or TV series is definitely hard to establish. But they did it great in both the TV series and the game. Honestly, it's crazy how much of a fantastic job that they did in both, and I'd really have to applaud them for that. But with the TV series, there is a massive change. We went from where the zombie apocalypse kind of more so spreads through spores, but still, bites and saliva, things like that. But the zombies more so carry spores in the video games, where it's more directed towards fungus in the TV series. And they went over in episode 2 in the final recap on kind of the decisions why it makes more sense to do a fungal outbreak versus spores for a TV series, but they're going to try to stay as true to the source material as possible. And so far, things have been going great. I was a little concerned knowing the difference here, but absolutely in episode 2, they really showed that things are going to be kind of working the same way. But with a couple, I'd say, massive differences that just work better for fungal and how fungus communicates and things like that, which is going to be super interesting on how that's going to play out. I'm still not 100% sure on how they're going to play that out. They say, fungus can communicate over vast lands and differences, like even over like a mile away. I don't know if they're really going to play into that, where they're showed in episode 2 that they killed a zombie that had more recently got infected, and it sent signals down the they call it the fungal wide web or something like that, and alerted another horde to come to that location. That could get pretty dicey if they keep implementing that. I mean, you could be constantly on edge knowing that zombies are going to be on their way, versus when you'd walk into a building and it's very contained to that building of spores and having to mask up and things like that. But with fungus versus spores, the environment still looks fairly the same. When a zombie is in an area for so long, they kind of bloom out with their fungus and even kind of get congealed up or something like that and connected to walls, and then they eventually dry up. And actually the environment works both definitely in the same. And the environment that they painted in real life is exactly how it looks in the video game, and it's amazing how well they did to translate it over to the TV screen. In fact, in that episode 2 recap, they brought on people of The Last of Us and the video game and talked about how accurate everything is, which is definitely great. And to talk about this fungus just a little bit more, I really like what they added in episode 2 as well, just to kind of deepen the roots on what this fungus is going to be and how it all kind of began. It brought in like a professor that then they inspected some of the ground zero patients before this apocalypse broke out, and she inspected everything and realized that everything was going to go downhill, and just suggested that they tried leveling the city that this was found in, just to really kind of cement what was going on in this new kind of fungus outbreak world. But honestly, so far, everything that has been happening is very lined out with the video game. A few changes here and there, but to keep the storyline running afloat, and but still staying very true to the source material. If they can keep this up, honestly, I think that The Last of Us is going to be a smash hit on the TV, which is kind of, a breath of fresh air when we saw the clickers, which they implemented them exactly how they work in the video game into the TV series as well. They actually brought on people that are fans of the game, knew how they walked, knew how they sounded, and their movements and everything, and hired them to play at least the clickers in the first set. And they did a phenomenal job, and they wanted people to see that from the game and say, yes, that's a clicker, and new people to say, oh my gosh, that's terrifying, those are clickers. And they did that also very perfectly. So with what they've got going on here, I'm definitely excited. I'm always on the edge of my seat to catch the next episodes that always release on Sunday. If I do happen to be able to record episode 3 and add it into this episode, I'll put it in right here. All right, Burdett from the past, it's Burdett from the future. We just saw episode 3, and so I'm just going to kind of give you some of my quick reactions here to it. Honestly, I wasn't quite ready for all the backstory that we got here in this episode right now. I thought that it was going to be a little bit more action-packed. In fact, in the middle of it, it lost me just a little bit, but it did kind of reel me back in. And once we got to the end of the episode, I kind of understood the story that they were telling. Yeah, this episode was just a little bit more story-driven, kind of taking us through some stages of the zombie apocalypse, following Bill, which a character that I just wasn't quite too familiar as. I did actually have to go back and research him a little bit here after that episode dropped, but following kind of Bill's story through life, I guess, through this zombie apocalypse. And although I wasn't quite expecting a little bit of back filler here for this episode, I do like how it ended and everything like that. They did a pretty decent job at telling kind of an additional story. I will say, however, though, while I was watching it, all I kind of was thinking about, especially when I was getting lost a little bit in the middle, was we only have 10 episodes, and it almost felt like this was like a little bit of a burner episode or something like that. Like I said, it did hook me back in. I did get pulled back in at the end, and it did feel crucial and to Joel and Ellie's development, but I just wasn't quite expecting this going in, and but it looks like we have some more action-packed episodes here to follow. So if you were expecting action all the way through, we already saw an episode where this one's just a little bit more laid back pace, kind of things like that, more storytelling and things where it's wasn't quite action all the time. Either way, with this episode, I'm still excited with how things are looking here in the future. It looks very exciting, and I just question after kind of watching this one if they're going to be ready for maybe a part 2 right afterwards, especially since there's Last of Us Part 1, Last of Us Part 2. Maybe they're just kind of be ready to keep rolling with this as long as it catches on. Nevertheless, I'm still hooked in. I'm ready to see how this is going to keep on playing out week by week. And if you're hooked as well, let me know in the comments down below what you think. If you like a video like this, I can definitely make an update down the line when we have a few more episodes down. But either way, that's it for this episode. And hey, we're going to catch you in another video. Have a good one. Peace.